Welcome to the Mind for Success podcast, a space for heart-centered entrepreneurs to live in deep alignment with what matters most, overcome subconscious limitations, and shift their energy into an unstoppable force. Before we get started, take a deep breath, hit the subscribe button, and enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to the Mind for Success podcast. I am your host, Kimberly Lebbing, and today we're going to talk about shifting perspectives, the power of aligned feedback for growth and success. And in today's episode, I'm going to give you some tips for giving and communicating with people, both in your business and in your relationships, so that when there's an opportunity for feedback or something that maybe we don't agree with that's been done either with our team or employees, and I want to give you the tools and the steps to do that in a way that's aligned, that's coming from a good place, and most importantly, so that whoever's on the other end of that will receive it and take it in and not get offended by it. Because so many times we get feedback and we immediately go to this, what did I do wrong? Is it me? And then we get in this really weird energy that's not productive for the relationship, the business, or anything. So a little bit of background to give you a point of reference. So most of the time on this podcast, I talk about mindset, I talk about subconscious limitations, and that is something I do in my business when I work with entrepreneurs, I work with business owners. We work on how they communicate with themselves first. We shift that energy first. Then we go in and we look at how are they communicating in their business? How are they communicating with their clients, their customers? And I teach them ways. One of the things that I teach them ways that they can communicate in a more effective way so that they are more effective and get better results and are coming from a better energy in their business. So, growing up, I had the sweetest, both of my grandmothers are sweet, but one of them was she never said a bad thing about anyone. Sweet as she could be, everything she said was very encouraging and sweet. And she used to say, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. And that was just a concept that it really stuck with me. It really, it's part of me. I feel like it's part of me. And I think that it's even more so part of me because, I was also the kid that got made fun of. So I always go back to in my mind thinking, didn't your grandma tell you, that if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. So it's really, I think it's really important for us to understand how to communicate with people so that they're really, really listening. We've all been on the other end of receiving some sort of feedback that didn't go well. And rather than feedback, it felt more like an attack. And there's a way that you can do that, get your message across without the person totally shutting down. Because what happens is if it feels to them like it's an attack, if it feels like it's some kind of attack or they're taking it personally in some ways, and you don't always know where they are emotionally or what subconscious filters they're dealing with. And when they get offended or they go into that part, if that's where they go, then they're not listening to the feedback. All they're doing is in their mind, they're defending themselves, they're getting mad, they're getting angry, or they're completely shutting down. And it's just not an effective way to communicate with people. And I know I've been on the end of feedback that didn't feel good, even in a professional. I can think of a situation a couple of years ago where it was a professional situation, and the feedback that I got was done in a way that felt really icky. And I felt bad. I mulled over it for a few days, like all those things. And then when I really dissected it, I understood where the other person was coming from. They weren't going into it with the right intention. Their energy was in a different place. And then honestly, so was mine. I was like, because I got offended by it. But there are ways that we can do it where people will really receive the communication in a different way. So my hope for you is this will help you in communicating with maybe your vendors in your business, your team, your employees, possibly with your spouse and your kids. I mean, you can literally use this in all areas. It's very, very helpful, and it's really simple. So the very first step in this is checking in on your own intentions. So you've had this thing happen. You have the intention of saying something about it. But what are your intentions? So if you're coming from the energy of, I'm going to tell you everything you did wrong so that you feel bad and shamed, that's not going to be received well. And I will say, even if you don't say those words, which you probably wouldn't, that energy is the thing that they're going to receive, and they're going to know it, and they're going to feel it, and it's not going to be received well. They're going to instantly put up a wall. And then now you've got this weird energy between the two of you, and there's a communication block probably, and some hurt going on. So what you want to do is check in on your intention and ask yourself, what's the purpose? What's the purpose of this feedback? What outcome do I want? Is it to help the other person? Is it to help them learn and see? Or, is it and it's okay. Is it to defend myself in some way? And that's okay. It still has to be done in a certain way in order for that to be received well. So check in on your intentions, because if it's about defending myself, maybe the intention could be to improve the relationship. Maybe the intention is to set some boundaries about the relationship or the thing, or maybe this is a work-related thing and none of those things apply. But you still want to be coming from a place of, what's the purpose of it? Is make sure your intentions are for something that's a higher good for both of you, whatever that is. Even if it's something that you don't want to even deal with this person anymore, it's not going to be helpful to them for you to just blow up at them and then leave, because the next person they come across, they're probably going to do the same thing. And now they've got this filter of being offended that's going on too. And then it's going to be worse for the next person. It's just not helpful. So even if it's someone you're not going to deal with anymore, come with it in the right intention or the right space. There's no really right or wrong. I hate using that words, but coming in from an intention of some type of greater good will leave both of you better, even if you end up separating, if that makes sense. Okay. Part two of this is, or the second part of it is effective energy for communication. So when giving feedback, you also want to check in on your energy and the subconscious language that's going on. So we have the ability to get in rapport with people when we talk with them. And there's something that I, teach clients, even in their, it's so helpful in sales, the subconscious language behind, getting in rapport and the energy you show up in. And there's so many things around that, but quickly, what it is really getting in and talking with them and validating them with your body language, with your um, even the way your voice is, with the way you talk with them. So you want to be coming from a space that validates them, so that and you do that by mirroring and matching, paying attention to those things so that they don't feel like they're an outsider or that you have some kind of ill intent. And this actually works in any situation, but that's an important piece, and that's like the 3 to 5 second beginning part of this whole process, is really checking in on the subconscious language of rapport before you ever even say a word. The second part, or I'm sorry, the third part 3, the art of consent. So it is really, really, really important to frame this in a way that you are getting their consent. So it may be something like, are you open to some feedback? I have some feedback for you. Would you be open to hearing that? Now, if you're an employer, and this is an employee, you would frame that in a different way. But you would still let them know that you're being respectful and you have some feedback for them. And because when it's done the other way, and you just push whatever feedback you have on them, again, that subconscious wall is gonna go up, and they're not going to want to listen. And that barrier is gonna continue, and they won't be listening to a word you say. They won't. So that piece of getting some type of consent or permission beforehand is really, really helpful. So are you open to some feedback? So in a personal relationship, it may sound something like, I'd like to tell you how I feel about something you've been doing. Would you like to hear what I have to say? And quite honestly, in a personal relationship, if they say no, it's not a good time. They're not going to hear it anyway. Then you just stop and step away. That's it. Most people are probably going to pause unless it's too soon. If it's right after and it's the heat of an argument, or right after something happened, you may need to pause and give it a little bit of time. But I'd like to tell you how I feel about something you've been doing or something you said. Would you like to hear what I have to say, or would you be open to some feedback on that? Something to that respect. And that's important, because when they say yes, that means, okay, the wall's down. They're ready to hear what I have to say. And they know that you're attempting to do it in the most respectful way possible. And there's a third step. And this part is something that I learned in one of my trainings. I think it's pretty common, like in the workplace, but I don't think if it's taught. It's not common knowledge, though. So we call it the sandwich approach. And what happens subconsciously is, whenever our subconscious mind wants to resist anything negative, that's its immediate response is, you're going to give me negative feedback, talk to the hand kind of thing. I'm not going to hear it, because it doesn't want to hear that. Who would, right? So the way to go around that, and I just think it's a loving way to do it, is you sandwich it. So first you tell them what they did right, or if it's a relationship, what do you love about them? What is something that you can appreciate about them? If it's an employee, what is something that they've been doing right? Then you offer what needs to be improved or what your feelings are about something, if it's something personal. And then you give an overall, just an overall positive statement. I know we've been through a lot. I value our relationship, or I value you as an employee. I know you've been trying your best. That's the end. So it's literally a positive, then the what needs to be improved, or how do you feel, and then another positive or a summary of some sort to wrap it up. And then you just sit and listen and be open to what they have to say as well. And when you come into communication and into conversations coming from this sort of energy, instead of what so many of us do, and that is so prevalent right now in the world, and that's this need to be right. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm this, you're that. And, there's all kinds of versions of name calling out there. And I know this happens personally, but it happens, all over. You see this on social media, you see this in political conversations and all kinds of ways. And if we would just start to listen and be a little bit softer in our approaches, with the intent of helping the other person understand, with the intent of leaving the whole situation in a better place than what you found it in, I believe that the whole entire world would be in a better place if some of us, it starts with one, or starts with a few, would start to use this approach and have just better conversations, that actually, where people are talking and working through things rather than being pitted against each other. So that's it today. I feel like I was a little bit of a rant at the end. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got value from it. If you did, please share this podcast. Please go and rate it. I'd love to get a rating on the podcast, and just tell us what you liked about it. Thank you again for listening. Thank you for listening today. I want to invite you to download my free guide at resources.kimberlylebbing.com/unlock. It's called Unlocking Your Authentic Self: 5 Key Steps to Identify and Overcome Hidden Limitations in Your Life and Business and Realize Your Highest Potential. Thank you again for listening today.